Welcome to the eCommerce podcast with Matt Edmondson, a show that brings you regular interviews, tips, and tools for building your business online.
Well, hello, and welcome to the e-commerce podcast with me, your host, Matt Edmondson. All of this week's notes and links can be found at ecommercepodcast.net/92. We are on episode 92 already. Can you believe it? Man, it just goes by so quick. So this week, do you want to know the secret sauce to getting more sales? Well, of course you do. Now, according to Cody, it is as simple as giving stuff away for free. And so we're going to show you how to do it. Yes, we are. Well, not me, but Cody's going to show you how to do it. So don't go anywhere.
Hey there, are you a business owner? Here at Aurion Digital, we know firsthand that running an e-commerce business can be really hard work. As the online space gets more competitive, it is becoming even more challenging to stay ahead of the curve. We totally get it. So we want to help you succeed by offering a wide range of services, from fulfillment, marketing, customer service, and even coaching and consulting, just so that you can do what matters most. Save yourself the time and the money and let us handle the day-to-day tasks. This way, you can run your business without having to worry about the boring stuff. So what do you say? Are we a good fit for each other? Come check us out at auriondigital.com and let us know what you think.
Thanks for joining us on the e-commerce podcast. It is great that you are here. Genuinely great. So thank you for joining us. Appreciate you being part of the e-commerce podcast family, tuning in and listening to the show. We're here simply to help you grow your e-commerce and digital business. It's what we want to do. It's what we want to do. And to do that, we have a mixture of fab sponsors who we think are going to help you, but also we have truly amazing guests who are experts in their own field with stories and insights, and I get to dig into it. Yes, I get to ask them all kinds of amazing questions that we can use to help us start, adapt, and grow online. And today is no exception because I get to talk to the all-round good egg, which is Cody. And Cody got his start in the industry by working at Qalo. I think I'm pronouncing that right, Qalo. And they are a brand that created the silicone wedding ring. Now, some of you keen-eyed viewers may notice that I actually wear silicone wedding rings. Yes, I do. And I have actually purchased some of those products. So I was especially excited to talk to Cody on this one because I purchased the products. I was really sold in. But what he's doing now, what Cody is doing now, he is the co-CEO at Kynship, which is an agency that is paving the way for the future of influencer marketing. Over the course of 5 years, he has built out a robust influencer program, all through the foundation of seeding, whilst also working with household names such as Lebron James and Dale Earnhardt Jr. So he knows what he's talking about, is the bottom line. So I was really keen to dig into this. Here is my interview with Cody. So Cody, thank you for joining me here on the e-commerce podcast. Great to connect, great to chat. I have to be honest with you, it looks like you're in a very bright, sunny room, which is contrasting a lot to my slightly darker room. What's going on there?
Yeah, I'm in Orange County, California, so the other side of the world from you, Matt. But thanks for having me.
Oh, no, it's great that you could join us. Appreciate it. I just love technology now, and the fact that we've just got so used to just having conversations with people halfway around the world, not even thinking twice about it.
Seriously, that's so true.
It's crazy, isn't it? Yeah, it's crazy. And in fact, we get slightly annoyed if it's a little bit glitchy. What's going on?
Exactly. Yep.
I don't. It's just funny, isn't it? As sort of our expectations now of technology, certainly following the pandemic. But yeah, are you a native Orange County, California dude, or are you an import?
I am born and raised, so I haven't left these parts quite yet.
Ah, okay.
It's definitely not how expensive it is that's keeping me here. That's for sure. So.
It's crazy. Maybe it's the weather.
Yeah,
it
probably is
this
more.
Fascination when yeah. I always have a fascination when I talk to guests, and I'm curious to know where they live, mostly because I get slightly envious about the weather. as you would living in the UK, you talk to other people around the world, which is great. And part of you feels, slightly smug that you're English. The other part of you goes, we've got really crap weather. So,
Yes.
it's one of those. It's one of those. So listen, the title of today's podcast is Why Giving Stuff Away Leads to More Sales. That's what we're going to get into. The whole when we did our pre-call, and regulars to the show will know that we do a pre-call. We always have a conversation, a separate call before we record the podcast, so that we can figure out, so I can understand, what we're going to talk about and so on and so forth. And you came up with a phrase I'd not heard before in that call, which I really want to get into, and that was influencer seeding, right? This was I thought it was a really great phrase, and so I'm looking forward to getting into that a little bit more. So can we start maybe there, and maybe that's a big place to start, but influencer seeding, what is it and why should I care?
It's a great question. Influencer seeding, all that means is sending out product for free to influencers. That's how we typically define it. Why you should care is it's the best way to start and facilitate relationships with influencers. So if you actually, and for those listening, want to build a community around your brand, which 99% of brand owners that I talk to care about community, care about leveraging influencers, starting relationships with influencers, don't know necessarily how to go about it. They see a lot of pay for posts. They see a lot of transactional things happening. They see their competitors killing it. There's so much noise. We just say, start with sending your product out for free. Start with getting it in your hands. So you're an influencer, Matt. I'm going to give you my hat product, and you're either going to love it, you're going to kind of dig it and it's okay, or you don't really like it a lot. But most of the time, even in just our outreach message, we can understand, and based on you just saying, yes, I'd love to receive this, you're probably interested in it. It's not just because it's free, but you actually are digging the product. So you got to start there because, and please cut me off because I can just keep going down a rabbit hole with this. You got to start there because I think you want genuine advocacy. But a lot of people, what drives them down to advocacy with influencers is money and a contract. And it just doesn't make sense, because if you compare it to your customers, it's actually illegal to pay them money to leave a review. But we think it's different.
Rightly so.
We think it's different with influencers. Oh, well, I'll just pay you for a review or a post on it.
That's very true. That's such a good point, actually.
So, it just doesn't make sense when we actually think about it. And it takes a little bit longer, but the rewards are greater. So
this idea then behind influencer marketing and influencer seeding, by giving, in effect, hence the title of the show, Why Giving Stuff Away Leads to More Sales, right? It's like we're giving our stuff away, but we're not, and this is an important point you raised, we're not giving it away for free. We're not giving it we are giving it away free. We're not giving it away willy-nilly. I don't know if that phrase translates across the Atlantic. But we're not just sort of randomly throwing this out to people. The thing that you said, and it was just a small phrase that I wrote down that struck me, is you're going to influencers, and if they say yes to your product, then you are sending them your product. You're not just blindingly sending this out. At least that's what I picked up. Is that right?
Yeah. And I would even back up a step further. You're targeting the right influencers. It's not just, if I continue with the hat brand and I happen to fall in, it's a running hat that's athletic wear, I'm not just sending it to the stay-at-home mom or, just anybody willy-nilly, I guess you could say. But you're targeting the right influencers based on who your brand is, who your customer is, and who the influencers that influence those customers. I would say, like, it becomes that much more important on who you're actually looking to send out product to, because like you're saying, if you're going to send it out, you want it to be people that you'd be proud that they actually represent your brand, they wear your product. Otherwise, why are you even outreaching to them?
Yeah, exactly. And I think the other thing you mentioned, Cody, was that the people that you talk to want to build an online community. It's become like the buzz term, and everyone wants to do it. I need an online community. That's what we need to build, the online community. And then when you actually talk to people about what that means, it's like, yeah, I want to build it, but I don't want all of that. Do you know what I mean?
You're nailing it.
Can't you just give me the community?
Yep.
If I give you money, can you give it to me? And it's like, no, it doesn't quite work like that. So, so we start off by choosing our influencers, right? Is what you said. So how would you go about doing that?
Yeah.
And, does that change if I'm just starting out versus if I'm well established, or are the principles the same?
I'd say they're generally the same. I mean, startups, you should have a good idea of what your customer will be or who they will be, even though you don't necessarily have a ton of data around it compared to someone who's been in business for 10 years. But generally, it is the same. You're finding influencers that would represent that customer. So if I have a running sock brand, then I'm going to find running influencers that would impact my potential customer that would be runners. Same sort of thing. So I think you can go a little bit more broad, 2 to 3 different personas that would represent that customer. But essentially, it's just, it's that, we could go example by example in terms of trying to find the right influencers. In terms of other things that in identification, so that's kind of like the persona piece, like the qualitative metric and how you kind of fill those buckets of people. Secondly is just around certain products. If you have different, most stores don't have one SKU product. So if there's a variety of different products and they kind of represent a little bit different personas, then you could find different influencers that are around those products. But we definitely recommend starting with micro influencers in terms of identifying micro influencers. How we define it, if you Google right now micro influencers, you're going to get a million different definitions out there.
Well, this was actually going to be one of my questions to you. I mean, we're talking about influence. Of course, the obvious question here is, what the heck is an influencer? How do I find someone on Instagram and go, you're an influencer, you're not? Do you know what I mean? How do I know? Do you know what I mean? And how do you define it?
Yeah, the easy answer is just someone who has a social media following that has even significance. But even that is kind of going down now to, like, I would say minimum of 1,000 influencers. Those are typically called nano influencers, but we focus on between 5 and 150K, and that's our definition, 5 to 150K of following. And that's our definition, our very broad range of micro influencers. But yeah.
That's really interesting that somebody with 150,000 followers is now classed as a micro influencer. Do you know what I mean? I'm just trying to picture the guy that's got 150,000 followers going, I've worked so hard to get this. I'm just a bloody micro influencer. When will I emerge? Yeah. When will I just be an influencer?
That's a good point. But yeah, to answer your question, it's just kind of, I would easily define an influencer as someone who has social media following. But to kind of go on a macro basis, it's just kind of the definition of anybody who has influence. That person doesn't necessarily have to have a social media following. They could just be a non-competing brand in your same industry that knows a ton of different people, that knows a lot of different people that if you could get them your product, they would tell a lot of different people about it, but they might have no social media.
No, that's I mean, you see that all the time actually in the podcast world, don't you? They might not have a social media following, but they've got listeners on a podcast channel, so they might get sponsorship from somewhere. They're classed as an influencer, right? So it comes down to outreach, doesn't it? And who you can reach, and I guess, do you do it on the basis of then, if I go to Instagram and I'm looking for, you know, a guy that's going to wear my athletic sports hat, I'm looking, I understand the persona, and I can go to their account and I can see how many people are following them. Am I looking at other things like how active they are? Are they promoting other brands? Yeah. Are they engaged, or is there some kind of website that I can go to and put their their sort of
handle,
their username in, and it comes back with some kind of report? What else am I looking for here?
Yeah, great questions. There's a lot there. So one, I'd be looking at an active profile. So you kind of mentioned that buzzword. That active profile means like their last post wasn't in 2019 or, even a couple of months ago. Like, I just want to be confident that you're active on the platform, that you're posting consistently, every few days or so. I want to see a minimum engagement rate of at least 1%. So that's the combination of likes and comments divided by follower count, or the reverse, follower count divided by the combination of likes and comments. I want to see, fake followers. I definitely want to eliminate that. So extremely high or low engagement rate compared to your follower count. So 150,000 followers, and on their posts, they get 20 likes and 0 comments. Red flag. Or the reverse, 5,000 followers and they're getting 10,000 likes on a photo. Like, you're like, So either or there. As far as discovery, there's a lot of tools out there. I mean, type in influencer marketing discovery tool. You're going to get flooded with different software. There's free ones that people listening could use at their disposal, though. One of which is Instagram itself. I mean, go to any influencer profile. If you're not already following them, you can hit a little button on a drop-down arrow. You can hit a drop-down arrow, and it populates algorithm-picked influencers that are all similar to that profile. Long before all these softwares were available, this is like back in the day when I was internally at a brand. That's where I did all my influencer discovery, because that was kind of the only option, for at least that I discovered.
Okay.
So it was just hours of free influencer discovery, all based on the algorithm. So similar hashtags, similar posts, similar things in their bio. TikTok, creator marketplace. So Google that, creator marketplace. You can sign up. So those are some of the free tools. And then, if there's paid tools, I have recommendations on those as well. What we use as an agency is called Tagger. It's expensive, but if you can...
Sounds expensive. It's expensive.
Yeah.
There's a brand called, I don't know if you're familiar with the brand called Stella Artois. It's a lager, a beer, which they sell here in the UK. And their tagline, which I think is probably one of the best taglines ever, is Stella Artois, reassuringly expensive. I just thought it was brilliant. It solves so many problems.
They know what they are.
Yeah, exactly. It's just reassuringly expensive. So don't be surprised if it's a few pounds more. Check out. And so that's Tagger, isn't it? Tagger, reassuringly expensive.
Tagger, expensive. Just expensive. That's
maybe just expensive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So that's Cody. That's super helpful. I'm starting to build a picture now in my head of what an influencer is. So I'm in terms of they're being active, their follower count, their brand fit, and so on and so forth. How do you reach out to these guys? Do you just message them on Instagram? Is it because I don't know. I think I'd be afraid of just becoming across as a little weird or stalky. I get messages all the time on Instagram. I got one today, actually, just before I came down here. I was checking Instagram. Some fella sent me a message saying, "Matt, it took me 2 hours to prepare this for you. Click this link to see more." And I'm just like, yeah, no, just delete.
No,
right. And so
that's where they get all of your credit card information.
Yeah, exactly. And so I just go no. So yeah, is there a strategy, sort of a broad brush strategy here that you could use to reach out to these folks?
Yeah, so you touched on a couple of things there with like how to actually get a hold of these people. And then once you identify the contact information, what does that message look like? So not a spammy, click a link here. So that's definitely for sure. But how to get there, I mean, that goes into some of the tools that I mentioned, like the contact information is listed within those free tools. A lot of these influencers, they want to be contacted, so they're not making it difficult. On Instagram itself, you can DM anybody. You can go on and DM LeBron James right now. But a lot of these influencers will list their email and like a contact button or anything like that. That would be my recommendation, just because when you're talking about Instagram specifically, there is going to be limitations on how many DMs you can send out. So they protect the privacy and all that stuff. So you're going to have limitations there. TikTok Creator Marketplace, that's kind of self-explanatory. There's, you can build out campaigns, invite influencers, stuff like that. But as far as outreach, I mean, this goes back to our philosophy of seeding. So that message looks simply, hey, Matt, we think you're a great brand fit. We love the content you consistently put out. We'd love to send you our product, no strings attached. And all that no strings attached means is we have no expectations for you to do anything with our product, such as post, in return for us sending you the product. So that messaging completely aligns with our belief system and philosophy of building relationships on giving and not asking, which is seeding 101. So what most brands do is, hey, Matt, they finally get a hold of you. Matt's never heard of my brand before. And then I say, my first impression of my brand to you is, will you post 3 times? It's like, bro, I've never heard of you before. I've never seen your product on an ad, like anything, so, which is most brands. Obviously, this isn't like Nike outreaching or anything like that. So,
yeah, and you know what? I understand why they would do that as well. So I'm thinking about some of the e-commerce companies I've got. You're sending out, in effect, some product which is worth $50, $60, whatever it is. You're sending, and it's a reasonable value by the time you've paid the shipping. In your head, it's very hard, I think, for the entrepreneur who is, fighting for every dime and dollar to go, sure, here, just have this, no strings attached. Do you know what I mean? And so I can understand why they're in their head, they're going, no, we need 3 posts. We need your inside leg measurement. We want to know your grandma's maiden name. I mean, I get why they would want extra information. But what I'm understanding, or what I'm hearing from you, Cody, is actually, whilst that makes sense from a just a pure surface level, it just doesn't work. Is that right?
Yeah. And I mean, I think you got to think about influencer marketing as more human than every other marketing channel. Like, it's not like going to your Facebook ad account dashboard and just putting in your credit card information, putting on a photo, building out an ad, and then just pressing go. Like, you're not dealing with a machine, you're dealing with a human. And so people are missing that. It's like, oh, machine Matt who posts consistently for brands. Here's like what I want. Like, why can't you just do that? I'm awesome. Like, here's my product. Like, sure, does that work? Does some influencers not care and they'll just take it? Like, obviously, like, that's why the market that we have. But I would just say you're settling when you can have so much more. You can have this actual relationship. There's compounding value once you start getting this product out there. You can build a brand on people with your product, consistently posting about it, rather than just settling for one. It's just short term versus long term, right? And we'll get into our process too. Like, there's definitely short term ROI. I think just the initial message is, it just has to be relationship first, because then, like, I want UGC, I want organic posting, I want, rights for ad campaigns. Like, I want all these things too. I'm no different. I'm just saying, like, there's a proper way to start the relationship. Like, what's the best approach to building a long-term value with this influencer, where most brands do get on the phone with me and say, yeah, I want an online community, like we've been saying. And, I want all these influencers posting about me consistently. And it's like, well, great. Your behavior has to match that belief system. what most people do is exactly what you're describing, because they get caught up in this is costing me money. I need direct ROI now. But that will come. Like, it's just, there's a little bit of patience. And
a little bit of faith as well. Do you know what I mean?
But that's all marketing, right? Like, there's always inherent risk with, turning on ads. Like, you're not going to get a conversion right away on Facebook ad account dashboard. You trust that system. You trust that process. Like, you got to trust this process as well.
This one. Yeah. No, it's very, very good. We are going to get into this in a whole lot more detail in just a few minutes. But in the meantime, let's hear from this week's show sponsors.
Did you know that nutrition is one of the keys to maintaining the energy you need to drive your business forward? Vegetology creates incredible, unique supplements in an eco-friendly, ethical, and sustainable way that feed your body with the precise nutrients it needs. We're not just making you healthier, we're helping to protect our planet too. Our products are vegan friendly and approved by the Vegan and Vegetarian Society. Plus, they're gluten-free, so they fit perfectly into any lifestyle. They also contain no artificial colours or flavours, making them good for your taste buds too. You can feel good about your food choices with our healthy, natural supplements. We have something for everyone, whether you want to boost your immune system or just get more energy every day. And we're always working on new ingredients so that we can provide even better products in the future. So what are you waiting for? Get started now by heading over to vegetology.com.
Hey there, are you a business owner? Here at Aurion Digital, we know firsthand that running an e-commerce business can be really hard work. As the online space gets more competitive, it is becoming even more challenging to stay ahead of the curve. We totally get it. So we want to help you succeed by offering a wide range of services, from fulfillment, marketing, customer service, and even coaching and consulting, just so that you can do what matters most. Save yourself the time and the money and let us handle the day-to-day tasks. This way, you can run your business without having to worry about the boring stuff. So what do you say? Are we a good fit for each other? Come check us out at auriondigital.com and let us know what you think.
Cody, before the sponsor break, you used this phrase, compounding value, which I thought was such a wonderful phrase, that by giving your products away, and the key phrase here was no strings attached, you're compounding value by building relationship with people. And we said at the start, we're not giving it away willy-nilly. We are, in fact, very targeted in...
That should be the show title, man. Giving products away willy-nilly. That's a better show title.
And you know what? There's going to be so many people going, what the heck does that mean? It is funny, isn't it? We speak the same language, but there are so many phrases which just don't translate.
So many differences.
Yeah, it's hysterical, really. And so, yeah, you talked about this short-term versus long-term thinking, and this was your sort of your philosophy. So I'm there. I've reached out to Fred, who's, Fred, I just want to send you my hat, bro. No strings attached. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And he says, yes, he gives me a shipping address. He sends it out. Is that it? Is there some kind of follow-up mechanism? What's your process, I guess, here?
Yeah, well,
to dealing with this?
It might be helpful to just our process. Now, we're an agency, so we can do this at scale on behalf of brands. So we're reaching out to 500 influencers in a month. Mm-hmm. For a brand internally, for like the solo person that I was managing influencer marketing at my brand, that I understand that takes 6 months for most people, and to even just identify 500 influencers. So let's scale this down to
that scares me, to be fair.
Yeah, let's scale this down, but just the process still remains of just identification, outreach, sending them the product. And then there is a communication flow that I would definitely recommend as far as follow-up, after you know that they've received the product. You can send a message that, hey, how are you liking the product? We send that 3 days after they've received the product. regardless of if they've posted or not. So we're going to get into our expectations of just, we see free organic posting going live from our seeding efforts. 30% of people that we send product to will post for free without us even asking. So that's a benchmark that I think brands should have internally. Is
okay, 30%. I mean, that's higher than I thought it would be, to be fair.
Yeah. And that 30%, when those influencers are posting, they're posting on average 2 to 3 assets each. So they might be throwing up 3 stories. They might post those three assets over a period of time, depending on your product and using it consistently. So there is a follow-up flow. And so our process goes from identification, communication, sending out the product, tracking organic posting. We use software for that, and I can go into and tell you exactly what that is. When we see posts go live, we reach out for content rights, which is important. Since we started the relationship the right way, like we've been talking about, a lot of these influencers are giving us rights to use the content for free. Again, so free posts and free rights. And then leveraging that content within paid, and then we're sending out an NPS survey to all the influencers. So that's kind of like our A through Z process. To address your specific question on just communication flow, like I send it to Fred, and then I just wait, like what do I do? If you're doing it on a one-by-one basis, there's nothing wrong with following up, especially if you haven't seen them post. You know they got the product maybe 3 days prior. It could be a little elbow nudge to basically say like, hey, how are you liking the product, without asking for it again, but it might, if they love it, then it might encourage them to post. Regardless, they could give you great product feedback. They could be asking for a discount code because they loved it so much to share with their followers. So that's some of that compounding value. Yeah. So, or if they have posted already, you can reach out for content rights, stuff like that. So that was kind of a lot there, but
no, but that's useful. Can I, I've got all that written down. So let me just assure you, dear listener and viewer, that we're going to come back and circle on some of these points. So if I go back, right, I've got my list of 500 influencers that I want to reach out to. How many of those 500 influencers, maybe this is a really inane question, how long's a piece of string? Do you mean, but how many of those 500 do you expect to go, sure, send me your free product?
20%. So that's 100.
Okay. So it's just now we're starting to work the numbers, aren't we? So if to get 100 people to say yes, I need to contact 500. Out of those 100 people that say yes, 30 of them will put some kind of content up on their feed without too much drama. These are just sort of general benchmarks. Just give
30% will
sort of an idea.
Yeah, we'll post on average 2 to 3 times each. So this is how our brands are ending up with a minimum of 60 to 90 unique assets from influencers that are not just UGC generation, but they're also posted on their feeds, stories, whatever platform that we outreach to them. And then, we're getting those assets to be leveraged within paid. So you're getting paid and organic combination.
Yeah. Okay. So the 70% that don't post for free, do a portion of those reach out and say, this is great, can we come to some kind of arrangement or deal? Some of which are just never going to get in touch with you again. I appreciate it. I don't know, what is it, about half maybe? So what happens to the other sort of 70%, if that makes sense?
Yeah. So we're sending out, I would recommend this. We send out a survey to all the influencers that do receive product, regardless if they've posted or not. So all 100, let's just say. So that includes those 70 people, of an NPS survey, basically. How likely are you to recommend this to a friend? But we do have a question in there as well. If we wanted to work with you officially, because we're communicating on behalf of the brand, how interested would you be in this? And we see on average, 80 to 90% of people are saying, yes, I'd be interested in this, regardless of if they've posted or not. And so when they say, yes, 8 through 10 on that scale, then they drop their handle. So just super valuable in addition to any other feedback, things of that nature. So your direct question of like what happens with those 70, well, a lot of those could have not posted, but they've filled out that survey and basically said like, yes, I would love to work with you. And now the brand has those relationships in-house to be able to follow up with them directly and say, yes, okay, let's work together. You know, because some of these brands that are approaching us as well already maybe have an affiliate program that they've kind of dabbled with. They don't have time to actually import these people, like recruit people to their affiliate program. Well, now like our services, our seeding campaigns have served as sort of top of funnel, if you will. And so we're funneling all those people into their affiliate program. So again, that was kind of a lot there, but like with those 70 people, that's what I would say is like, there's incredible data that's coming back regardless of, you know, cause you have feedback of them posting, sure, you know, those 30 for sure love you, but then there's other people that maybe didn't decide to post, but they filled out that survey and they're like, yeah, man, like I love the product. I loved it. I would love to work with you. This is how many people I told about it. You know, I would purchase the product on my own, like all this, you know, and you can use that data to determine if this person's a big advocate of you.
Yeah, no, that's really, and again, just touching on something that you said there, the rabbit hole keeps growing.
Yes.
We're just going further and further down. You mentioned affiliate program, right? And how clients come to you and they've not really done the affiliate thing. They've kind of dabbled, and you're using this in effect to put them in the top of funnel of your affiliate program. I'm just thinking, if I'm reaching out to micro influencers and I'm selling an average price product, I'm not selling, you know, like a Lamborghini or something where there's huge profit margins, but it's just a typical product like a hat or a t-shirt or a food supplement or headphones,
right,
whatever it is, right? I've sent you the product for free. You love it. You try it. And they fill in the survey and say, listen, we would love to work with you further on this. I hear stories, which means everybody hears stories of Kim Kardashian saying, if you want me to post an Instagram post, it's 400 million trillion pounds. Do you know what I mean? Or whatever the latest figure is. And so so again, the guy who was apoplectic because he's had to send the product out for free and not had any, you know, agreement, gets this, can we work back further? What sort of, I think rules is a wrong phrase. What sort of principles, what sort of ideas should I be thinking about as an entrepreneur when working with these micro influencers? You know, is it a fixed price thing? Is it come join my affiliate program? What do you think about that? Yeah.
The short answer is it really depends on what the entrepreneur wants, like what you guys are wanting to do internally. I always say, okay, you know, seeding has lended you to a pool of people that have proven to be genuine advocates of you. Now, do with it what you want. So for some people, that's an affiliate program. Some people, that's a UGC, you know, pool of people that create consistent UGC on a month-to-month basis that you leverage within paid. Others, it's an ambassador drop-down menu on their website, et cetera, et cetera. I would recommend in terms of contracts, in terms of now it gets to the point of like actually working with these influencers. I would see how that content's performing within paid, see who's performing best, and then actually contract these people. I think getting them onto an affiliate program is kind of, why not? So giving them a discount code, giving them a commission if they want to continue to post, and it's a good motivation for them to continue to post. And then I would contract them for consistent monthly UGC. And we this is deepening the rabbit hole, but we can get into
Pandora's box.
Yeah, it is. You know, things to include in the contract and stuff like that. So,
yeah. Well, we will come back to contracts because you've mentioned about getting contract rights and stuff like that as well. So maybe some of the key things we need to think about there.
Right.
But I just want to close the circle a little bit if I can, because again, you've mentioned it a couple of times about using the UGC, which is user generated content. For those that might be thinking, what the heck is UGC? This is the content that the influencers created that they post on social media. You've mentioned about using that in paid media. Just briefly explain what you mean by that.
Yeah.
For those that might not understand what that means.
Essentially, it's just the content that they've created, turning that and actually turning those into ads within Facebook and Instagram advertising. That's what I mean by that.
Yeah, so you're taking their content, their images, maybe their testimonial, their story, and that actually is your ad, which says click here to find out more about what Fred thinks about hats or whatever. And actually that becomes quite an interesting form of paid media, isn't it? Because it's very different to the here's my hat, buy it. You're actually going, here's what Fred thinks about my hat. Why don't you find out more?
Right.
And actually, it has quite interesting results when you do the two different types of marketing to sort of measure them alongside each other. I don't know if you found anything sort of correlation between the two, but I find that UGC advertising is great on Instagram in terms of, especially if the photography is done well. Do you know what I mean? And it interrupts people quite nicely. So yeah, I don't know if you've got any anecdotal evidence on that or any thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, especially video content is high performing, and I would say that the UGC on the dashboard on Facebook, we definitely see a significant. Well, let's just break it down. Like these networks are human creation networks. You know, they're meant to be just friends interacting with their friends. So when you see a product on a white background versus Matt, you know, when you're scrolling on the feed talking about a product that he loves, that's just more native to the feed. That's all that means. You're used to seeing that type of content. It is more, and there's a lot of data around this, which I don't have memorized off the top of my head, but a lot of data around even when it's clearly an ad, but it's a human talking to a human, there's just a significant difference, and people just flat out are filling out stats and surveys and basically saying, yeah, that doesn't make it. I know it's an ad, but it doesn't make a difference to me. So yeah, I think it just speaks to the power of that. These are human networks at the end of the day. And so the more human that you can make it, the better it'll be. And that's why UGC works incredibly well.
Yeah. And the thing I love about your philosophy here, or your principles, your methodology, whatever language, you know, resonates. But the thing I love about it is you're completing the circle. You're saying, right, we're going to go find these influencers. We're going to reach out to them. We're going to build a relationship with them, and we're going to keep this process going. You know, we're then going to use that content in ads. It's not, you're using it in multiple ways. You're making the reward bigger, I guess, for that initial effort at the start, aren't you? With what you're talking about, rather than just, let me contact this person. They said yes, they said no. They put a nice picture up. I've liked it, so thanks very much, and that's it. You're actually making dual use of what's going on, which I think is actually remarkably clever, and remarkably simple all at the same time, which these things usually are, aren't you? You're actually making your life easier by maximizing what you're getting from your customers, from your influencers, from the people you've connected with. Is that right?
Yeah, I think I'm going to start using you on our BD calls because of just the way that you put things. Differences between UK and the stateside use of the English language.
Yeah, it's funny. I completely not related to anything, Cody. I used to live in the States for a little while, and every day I would go out and you would inevitably end up talking to somebody. Oh, where are you from? Your accent. And then they would say to you things like, say this. What does this sound like? You know, and just give you words to say all the time. Say this. Say Liverpool.
Like a puppet
say
or
Liverpool.
Something.
And they, yeah. Like, yeah, just like I'm a remote control. Just play, pause. And it was just really funny.
Terrible Americans.
But one of the things, no. I figured this out, right? That actually, if my eldest son is thinking of going to the States in the summer for an internship, right? And I said to him, before he goes this summer, I said, listen, here's the thing, right? In fact, I also said this to some friends of mine who have just literally moved out last week. They moved out to the States. I said to their kids, I took them aside and said, this is what's going to happen when you're in the States. You are going to walk into a shop or a takeout, you know, you're going to go into whatever, McDonald's or whatever your favorite restaurant is, and you're going to go in there and you're going to go and ask for your food in the strongest English accent you can possibly do, right? Just go overboard and say, well, hello, it was a beautiful day, isn't it? And just go crazy with it, because you'll get more stuff. And that's what I figured out.
That's right.
I always go, it was either free or they gave me extra. And so I didn't mind the 5 minutes conversation. I didn't mind saying Liverpool, because there was always stuff
I love
to get as a result.
That's the word. That's so funny.
It was just great. Yeah, well, these things that they do. Right. Anyway, let's get back to the
rabbit hole
at hand. Yeah, the rabbit hole. Let's get back down there. So you've mentioned a few times about contracts, contract rights, contract with them to produce content on a regular basis. Everyone is instantly scared at this point, because contracts equals litigation, right? And it's just like, and it equals lawyers. And let's just be fair. I have some good friends who are lawyers. They won't mind me saying this. They're not the cheapest people on the planet to employ, are they? Really? And so you've got to be committed to the cause, I think, start going down the contractual route. So what are some of the tips and hints you've got here that are going to help us?
Yeah, I mean, let's just tie it back into seating, right? Like those litigations, those contract disputes, a lot of those things are alleviated if you start the relationship the right way, right? Like just on a transactional basis, if it doesn't go right, if they post without your approval, or if they use the wrong copy and then you want to sue them, which I wouldn't recommend,
it's going to go.
Yeah, it's just a bad look. But two things I recommend with contracts is just one, when it gets to that point, because to be clear, I'm not anti-contract with influencers. When it gets to that point, though, you definitely want to have content approvals, so rounds of approval. So they're going to produce 3 videos, 1 image. You want to have approvals on that content. So when they shoot the videos, you send it over. Okay, they said my brand name wrong. They said Nike, not Nike. We need to redo the video. And then usage rights. When it gets to that point, as far as contracts, like you just got to at least have 30, 60, 90 or content in perpetuity in terms of usage rights. And that means that you're leveraging that content in other places, whether on your website, Facebook, Instagram advertising, et cetera, et cetera. The organic posts that you're contracting them for is not enough. You just got to be able to, diversify your portfolio, if you will, not just put it all in one stock. So those are the 2 things that I would recommend.
That's super helpful. I like that the organic stuff content is not enough, and so you want to be able to use it in other places and repurpose that content. And to do that, you're going to have a need to contract with them, which basically says that you've got their permission to do that without incurring any extra costs or whatever the contractual arrangements are. I remember, we've worked with several brands over the years, and just some of the stuff, around photographs and what you can do with them and what you can't do with them. And it's incredible. And so I guess, how tightly do you want to control that? Because is the purpose of influencer marketing to let them have their voice and it comes across as them being authentic versus me scripting and controlling? Do you see what I mean? So is there a bit of ebb and flow there?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely send them like a creative brief. So all that means is just like kind of a one-sheeter of, hey, here's some talking points, here's some example scenes, but it's all meant to be inspiration. We found that influencers do want guidelines. They just don't want like exact word for word scripting. So I would never recommend like, Matt, you must say this word for word. It's not going to sound natural. It's going to sound scripted. It's going to sound exactly like what you produced. So, but they also want to be like guided. So there's certain talking points about your product or brand. And then if you have example scenes that you're hoping that they kind of do or match, then putting those in there as well.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Have you got people maybe that I could go follow on Instagram, or brands that I could go follow on TikTok or whatever, that are doing influencer marketing well, so I can sort of start to see the kind of things that they're getting? Do you know what I mean? Have you got any examples?
Yeah. One that comes to mind is Gymshark. I mean, they're obviously very, very big now. They work with lots of influencers, but again, tying it back to seeding, that's how they started. That's how Ben Francis started, is just getting the product out to fitness influencers at a fitness show. So that's how it started. But I still think that they do influencer marketing well.
Yeah, they're almost like the pioneers of it. Well, they were the first company that I heard that had made a killing out of doing influencer marketing well, and it's the one with, most people talk about, isn't it? Gymshark, and definitely worth following if you don't do so already, just from the lessons that you can get from their influencer program. But anybody else?
None that come to mind. Obviously, the brands that we work with. Obviously,
just go to your website, right? and just look at all the case studies.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I guess as we're sort of closing here on this, Cody, I appreciate. I've got a much clearer understanding now of influencer marketing, the kind of things I should be looking at, what kind of things I should be doing. If I'm listening to you going, this is great, it sounds all a bit daunting and a bit scary. What should I start doing today? What's manageable today? Bringing it right back. What could I do? What actions could I start taking today to start me off on the right process?
Identifying influencers. I think you could hire a VA. You could hire an intern. You could hire somebody to basically go out and find a list, and then you have inventory. You can outreach and say exactly the message that I proposed of sending out a message, no strings attached, and getting addresses, and just start collecting data. If you reach out to 30 influencers, you should expect at least 6 to say, yes, send me the product, and you should expect at least 2 of them to post for free. Now, that doesn't sound like grandiose compared to 30 influencers, but as you do it at scale, those benchmarks should continue to be the minimum expectation. You obviously want to shoot for more.
They should continue to improve. No, you've got to start small, haven't you, and learn and adapt and go for it. Really, when you're sending out your free product, sending out the gift, I'm just thinking, how do I decide what do I send? Do I send my best product? Do I send my...
Great question.
Do I send $100 worth of product or $50 worth of product if I've got a range?
Yeah.
What is there a limit there, or no, limit's a wrong phrase. Is there a principle? Is there a guiding principle?
Yeah, I would think primarily whatever product you want content around. So that's the long-term vision, right? Like, because you're going to expect some posts go live around your product. So that's one piece of it. And then secondly, I would just think about like what is the hero product that I know people are going to love and it's going to actually fit the influencer. So those are kind of the 2 ways that I would think about it. I wouldn't necessarily basically as much as you can afford. Like we have a seeding budget calculator, like that takes into your COGS and shipping and all that stuff, and times that by the amount of influencers that you want to send out product to. That's kind of your seeding budget. For one brand that has $200 worth of COGS, like that's probably one a month versus like the $20 COG company that can send out a lot more. Whatever's going to be impressive to the influencer. Send as much as you can, but obviously one is completely fine.
Yeah, and make most of your budget. I'm just thinking, actually, for one of the brands that we look after online that we do, we've got some new products coming out, and I guess would it work if I got a list of my customers, for example, went through those, figured out who was more influency than do you know what I mean, and looked at their sort of their social media. Send them the free product and say, listen, this is a new product coming out, no strings attached to you, but we'd love to know what you think. Would that work?
To your customers? Yeah, absolutely. I think tying it back to influencers as well is that the more that you seed, the more that people like this kind of goes into the follow up. Like once you actually start working with these influencers consistently, is including them on your seeding roster. So like when you do have new product launches, like you got an army of people that are saying like, hey, this is the new product. I used to do this all the time at the brand I was working at. These were our top 25. These were our top 50. We sent it to all top 50. And because they're such massive fans and they've worked with us consistently, 50% of them would just throw it up and say like, look at Kalo's new product, new, stuff like that. So that's definitely something that I would recommend.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's awesome. So I think there's a whole stack load of ideas right there, isn't there? And hopefully there's enough to wet your whistle, as they say, and get you excited about the whole idea of influencer marketing, influencer seeding. Cody, just how can people reach you? How can people get a hold? Because I'm thinking, right, I own an e-commerce brand. I'm like, I get excited by this kind of thing. And then the other part of me goes, I've got resource to think about now. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. And so this is where it's a beautiful thing that you're an agency, because I'll just pick up the phone and go, Cody, listen, let's do a deal, right?
Yeah.
So, people may want to reach out to you, either to talk to you about your agency work, or even just to ask you any questions about some of the things that you said today. What's the best way for people to do that?
Yeah, I'm at Cody Wittick on Twitter and Instagram. That's where I put out content. So in addition to everything that we talked about, so that's shoot me a DM. Our agency website is Kynship, KYNSHIP.co. There's a lot of call to actions to get on a call or reach out. So those would be the ways to get a hold, and then we can have a conversation and see kind of what next steps would be.
Yeah, no, fantastic. And we will, of course, link to Cody and all of his various methodologies for reaching him. Cody, listen, thank you so much for being with us on the show. We're going to have to get you back, but at some point, no doubt, to figure out what's new and what's happening.
Of course.
But it's been a real treat, real privilege. And thank you for being so valuable in what you shared.
Thank you, Matt. It's been a fun time.
Well, a huge thanks to my very special guest, Cody. Great conversation, great interview, great insight, great principles. But what did you think? Did you get lots of notes as well? Of course you did. Of course you did. But I appreciate for some of you, it's not always that straightforward to take good notes. So you can get them for free, including the links, including the transcript from today's show at ecommercepodcast.net/92. You can check that out. And of course, if that is not enough, and why would it be when there's so much to learn about e-commerce, we have another fantastic guest next week. Gen Furikawa, how to capture zero-party data to effectively personalize at scale. Sounds interesting, doesn't it? What is zero-party data? How can I gather it? How can I effectively do it? Well, my conversation with Gen is going to reveal all. Here is an excerpt.
So these platforms that track customer data are no longer available. It's incumbent on brands to build that relationship, to capture that data themselves. And I think that is becoming a defensive moat and a competitive advantage for those brands that have it. And once you do have it, then you can create campaigns, you can create tighter segmentation to improve the relevance and the timeliness of who you're sending and what messages and offers you're sending.
I am looking forward again to this one. He's such a cool guy, again, genuinely cool guy. You sit down and talk to him and go, you're cool. He's cool. You're definitely going to want to listen to it. He's such a cool guy. So to make sure you get that episode coming into your inbox, make sure you like and subscribe to the podcast, wherever you get your podcast from, whether it's Apple, whether it's Google, whether it's now Amazon. We're on Amazon. Whether you do it through YouTube or Facebook, however you get the content, like and subscribe to make sure it just arrives automatically when it's released next week. And of course, if you do like it, I genuinely would appreciate it if you could give the show a rating wherever you get your podcast from. I know every podcaster says, can you rate a show? And I think to myself sometimes when I'm listening, I can't, I'm in the car, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing that. If it's possible, please just give us a rating, because it really helps us. It helps us grow, it helps us get the sponsors, which means it's going to help you because we can keep delivering the content. It's win-win. Win-win all around. It just works all around. So genuinely appreciate that. As I said at the start of the show, the notes and links from today's conversation with Cody are available online for free, ecommercepodcast.net/92. That's it from me. Thank you so much for listening. Do come back. Like I say, next week, my conversation again is going to be amazing. No doubt you're not going to want to miss it. So have a fantastic week wherever you are in the world. Bye for now.
You've been listening to the e-commerce podcast with Matt Edmondson. Join us next time for more interviews, tips, and tools for building your business online.